Hello everybody, this is PI Health with another video from my sanctuary backyard. This represents my whole entire backyard. I do a lot of reading here, research, etc. So, today's topic is going to be my baby 3006. What does that mean, baby 3006? Well, it's a 300 blackout. So let's look at first the 3006 a little bit, not by much, just a little bit. So, the 3006 is probably one of the most versatile firearm there is. A lot of deer has been taken with it. The 3006, you can reload anywhere from 110 grain all the way up to 240 grain. And I even heard a little bit higher grain. So, what about the ballistics of it? Well, the ballistics is about 2,700, 2,800 feet per second. It depends upon the rating, etc. So, when I was cleaning out my backyard there, and including the shed, what happened is I found something very interesting in there. I don't know how old is it, but it's approximately about 25 years old. Well now, what do I have in my hand? I have a 3006-22. The 3006-22, what happens is it has some more parts to it because it has the plug in there. So this particular plug, as the bullet fires, goes out, the plug and the bullet actually separates. Isn't it amazing? There has been some individuals who tried to reload this, not with exactly good success. And I have found this, a 3006 Springfield accelerator, which is exactly the same thing. I haven't seen this in stores God knows when. I mean, I just haven't seen it. I do not know if it's still available in the stores in some format or not, or you can order it maybe on the internet somewhere. I have absolutely no idea. But this is the original box. As you can see, it's quite a bit falling apart. Whoa, wait a minute now. Don't fall apart on me. No, no, no. You cannot do that. Oh, well, almost. Well, okay, I got it. So, it is one of the most versatile cartridge there is. Around you can actually, I mean, a lot of game has been taken with that. When I was hunting New York, upstate New York, and including in the Adirondacks and all the way up in the way north, almost going into northern Maine, by the border of the Canadian border, including Pennsylvania. What happened was, at Pennsylvania, I was up on the ridge, and here comes the wild boar. So the wild boar, as it comes out, Bobby weaving in his head and everything else, I'm up on a ridge. I actually shot him in the head, approximately about 35 to 40 yards. So what happened? Well, guess what? I missed the brain. Don't forget, the brain of the wild boar is relatively small, so it is quite hard to hit, especially when the head is moving around. So what happens? But it broke its neck, and what happens when it breaks the neck? The wild boar just actually drops right there. Game back. So that's what it is. So now let's talk about the 300 blackout or my baby 3006. What's the correlation here? Well, let's look at it. I mentioned it earlier that you can reload the 3006 from 110 grain. It's basically about an M1 carbine. You can download it to about 1,400, 1,500 feet per second. That it does not wear out the bore of the barrel, and I use the Remington 700 BDL. Exceptionally good gun. Wow. It did its job in Vietnam also. It was one of the favorite rifles in Vietnam, including a Winchester 77 and a few others, but I will not mention that. So what do we have here? Well, we have what is known as a 300 blackout cartridge. The 300 blackout cartridge, what I have in my hand, is 120 grain, and it's rated approximately about 2,000 feet per second and about 1,000 pounds of energy. But I also have here a 220 grain, but this is a subsonic. So that makes it 220 grain subsonic. I mean, it's under 1,000 feet per second. That's why it's subsonic, which I talk about it on what the silencer is. But I'm not going to talk about the silencer. You can look at it in my other video on that one, how the silencer actually works. So what do we have? Well, what we have is a very, very versatile cartridge, a very versatile round. Anywhere from, as I said, from 120 to 220. But let's talk about the actual rifle itself, specifically my 300 Blackout. My 300 Blackout is as follows. It's right here. It is a Ruger. Oh, yes, folks. This is a little bit higher than medium quality. So what do I have here? Well, 16-inch barrel. Because it's a 16-inch barrel, would I use this for home defense purposes? Not really, unless it is a must and I have to use it. Now, I was thinking to drop it down to 12-inch barrel. It's much easier to maneuver in the house. Okay, but still, within the house, when you fire it, it is horrendous. Very, very loud and very, very noisy. If you are on indoor range, let's say on a 25-yard indoor range, and then you fire 300 Blackout just with an earplugs, because I don't recommend it otherwise. You have your ears ringing. Oh yeah. So it is very, very loud. Now, what else I have here? This is a hunting rifle that I use in state of Florida only. Why? Because the game is much smaller. The more south you go, the smaller the game. For example, a wild boar is approximately about 150, maybe 175 pounds. The wild boar, and this is good enough to take down. Now, ballistically speaking, the 300 Blackout 150 grain bullet is about the same as the 30-30 Winchester. The 30-30 Winchester took down a lot of deer, trust me on that one. Wow. So, I mean, it is about a 30-30 Winchester, ballistically, approximately. You can't stress that enough. Do I also use, during the hunting, a 30-round clip? No. I only use the 10 rounds because it's actually even with the casing here. So, because it's, I also put in 5 rounds. I don't put in 10 rounds. Usually what I have found is that after the first shot, even if you have 3 or 4 wild boar or deer or anything like that, what will happen is they just wham, they just start running. And in the brush, double tap or shooting another wild boar on the run in the brush, I don't think so. I don't want to wound an animal. So what I do is I actually aim to the head, and it's called the meat gun. The reason for that is it doesn't damage the meat if you shoot him at broadside. So, what else we have here? Well, we have a scope on it. Well, what is this scope? Well, this particular scope is a 1 through 6x. Magnification. Usually it has been said, for my intensive purposes, for my purpose, I like to have a 2 to 2.5x on 100 yard. But this is a 1x6. So, the reason that it's a 1x6 and it's a very interesting scope because it has a 34-inch objective. The 34-inch objective is going to give me a lot of field of view. Matter of fact, it's going to give me more than 100 feet. If there would be a 40 millimeter objective, this would be on it. And yes, it would be a low power. The 6X. So this gun is actually sighted in on 50 yards. I usually don't go out more than 150 yards. Never have, probably never will. The longest range that I shot down there was actually a whitetail. Upstate New York was about 220 yards, give or take. It was actually came out to 220 steps, so it depends how big is your step. So, all right, let's make it 220 yards. So what happens? So this rifle is actually sighted in on 50 yards. As you can see, also, I have a plug in here, so I know the gun is empty because there's a plug here, and it was checked prior to it. So what else we have here? Well, somebody was telling me that you can actually shoot this gun up to about 500 yards. Really? 500 yards? Well, let me see if I understand this. 500 yards, I cannot even see the wild boar. Where is it? It's there. There where? I cannot even see it. So, they were telling me you can shoot this at 500 yards and you have to worry about the curvature of the earth. You have to worry about the bullet drop. You have to worry about the windage. I said, are you kidding me? When I went to school, what happened was that the earth was still flat. It didn't have a curvature. Are you kidding me? No. This gun I will not shoot anything more than 150 yards. Also, I like the 6X very much, let's say at 50 or 60 yards. The simple reason that if a game is actually behind a tree trying to hide, because they do, oh trust me, they do. When they sense something, they try to hide. They do have instinct that they hide, so, or they run. So what happens? I can crank it up and shoot between the tree, or if it hides behind the tree, I can actually magnify it and for a more precise shot, so I do not wound the animal. I don't like that. So this is basically my 300 blackout. So the correlation between an 06 and the 300 blackout is incredible versatility. As I said, anywhere from 110 grain, 120 grain, all the way up to about 220. Can you reload it to 1,000, let's say 700 feet per second, 170 grain, 300 blackout, to have a velocity around approximately 1,700 feet per second? The answer is yes, but I don't bother with that. I just go to the shelf and take it off. I never reloaded rifle ammo in my life, but I did reload handguns, which I will get into right after this. So that's basically my 300 blackout. Now I will be saying a few words about the SIG. Ah yes, the dreaded SIG. The SIG 320. When I came down from New York to Jacksonville, Florida, what happened is I was in a gun store and a gun range, and I was looking around for a handgun because I know I needed a handgun. So they were telling me about the SIG. Oh, versatile. You can interchange it, anything you want with it. I said, okay. So what happened? I'm looking around, and guess what I bought? Well, you guessed it. A 22 caliber Browning 1911. One of the best handguns that I ever bought. But before I even bought this, before I even came down to Jacksonville, Florida, my handgun in New York, which is on the other video, 380, does qualify as an all-around handgun. This is the bill of sale. This is 1984, 5/3/1984. Walter PP model. Walter PP model stands for police pistol, which is this one. Of course, this is empty. This is a conversation piece. It is a china cabinet piece. In other words, it's there for a conversation purpose only. It should have come with 2 magazines, but I got gypped with 1. I only have 1 magazine with it. So this was my carry gun in New York. This is because of that I did reload the 380 exclusively, but it has another feature. Another feature that it has is a safety right here. And guess what? This particular gun is manufactured from approximately about the 1930s. Wow. And yes, it does have safety feature. Well, it's easier for me with that hand. So, as you can see, it's a little bit worn. Over the years, I'm not going to have it reblued whatsoever. So this is a conversational piece. This is completely retired. So what else we have here? Well, we have another little gun here. It's called a 25 ACP. Somebody was smart enough on a 25 ACP to put a safety on it. Okay, this gun is also empty because this is also not a conversational piece. Just to make sure, come on now. Safety off. Yep, it's empty. Here it goes, end of a story. So this is another conversational piece. I don't remember carrying it. So this is a little this is a little 25. Okay. So what else we have? One of my birthdays a few years back, I bought another gun. You guessed it, 1911 Browning 380. That's the big brother of the little 22 that I showed. Okay, again, safety on, off. This gun I'm not going to check because I know this is loaded. Not a safety. Okay, so what do I carry right now? Well, guess what, folks? I carry a Cheetah 380 right here. Guess what? Safety. So if a gun doesn't have a safety, I don't buy it, and I do not use it. I tried the SIG on the range, on a pistol range, and I was very, very unhappy with the vibration of it. The Glock, I will mention the Glock only for purposes. It's a very, very fine gun, but I cannot use it because it has a trigger safety. Guns that has a trigger safety, I do not use either. That's going to be another video why I cannot use that. So I covered the 300 blackout a little bit, and I covered the SIG 320. I don't like either gun. No, the SIG 320s and the Glocks with the trigger safety, no, either one. If it has a trigger safety, I understand why they have the trigger safety. It's a fabulous idea, but I personally cannot use it. One of them is a vibration, the other one is the trigger safety. Specifically the blade on it. It hurts my finger, but that's going to be a separate issue, and it's going to be a separate video. So for one more last nostalgic note, it is amazing that this one actually doesn't have safety. It's a 38 special, completely unloaded. This was my father's gun. He used this in Long Island as an armed security back in the late 80s, mid 80s. So it's amazing that a 5-shot J-frame, 3-inch heavy barrel actually can be used those days as a armed security. It amazes me by today's standard. If you want to keep something like this on your how should I say, on your nightstand, I understand. 5-shot, that's all you got. This is what we call a minimalist handgun also. Built in sights, quite accurate. I shot this quite accurate, about up to 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet. At 75 feet, I haven't shot it. There's no need for it, as far as I'm concerned. Nah, I didn't shot it. 30 feet, yeah. Anything more than that, because of a 3-inch barrel, I mean, this is relatively short. No. So, with that note, and for my sanctuary backyard, which I will have a little video of my sanctuary backyard, back into my office. It's a little bit cloudy out there, so that's why I'm in my office. And I was very disappointed for the simple reason that I asked a couple of questions to a couple of individuals. One of them was, what's the difference in caliber-wise between let's say an 06, 30-06, or let's say a 300 Blackout? Well, I got all kinds of convoluted answers. And the amazing part was that these answers were actually in the gun range or in stores where they sell guns. They had all kinds of guns in there, including bolt action, semi-auto, and AR-15s. I mean, handguns everywhere. So I want to do a little clearing. What's the difference between an 06, 30-06 to be exact, or 30 caliber, and put a clean water in there. First of all, when you say 30 caliber, that means the interior of the wall of the barrel. In other words, a 30 caliber, which is a 30-06, let's say, and a 30 caliber carbine M1, it is the same, including a 300 Winchester Magnum. 300, remember, 300 Blackout. So let's look at it a little bit more scientifically. Okay, I have in my hand a 22 CB short. All right. The diameter of the 22 caliber is 2.2. It is in inches, 220 thousandths of an inch. That's why the diameter of the silencer is a quarter of an inch. That means it's 25 thousandths of an inch larger, so it can capture the gas as it comes out from the bore. So what we have here, this is a 30-06-22, and this is on purpose. The 30-06-22, this one is a 55 grain. It is not a, normally speaking, a 40 grain, no. So the diameter, you have to be very careful because this is in a 30-06 casing. The 30-06 casing, it has a filler in here, a kind of wad that is actually fitted into the 30-06 A22. So when the bullet actually and the filler actually leaves the barrel, it will separate. But it is exactly the same concept, not the same caliber in this particular case, because you have to be very careful, because this is a 22 seated in a 30 caliber, okay? So you have to be very, very careful with that. But the concept of the bore diameter, it is filled because it's a 22 bullet coming out of a 30 caliber. All right, that's part one. Let's look at part two. 380. This is a 380 in my hand, and this one is a 9mm. The diameter of the 9mm and the 380 caliber of the bullet itself coming out from the bore, it is identical, no difference. The casing is different. I have seen some geniuses use, for example, a 380 in a 9mm handgun. Don't do it. No, don't do it. I reloaded exclusively in New York City for the 380. I mentioned it earlier for the simple reason that a 380 was incredibly expensive in New York City, even 10 years ago. So, don't do it. So when I mention, okay, this is a 120, all right, this will do. This one is a 300 blackout. The diameter, this is a 100, let's see, I think 120 grain. Yes, this is a 120 grain blackout. The diameter of a 300 blackout and a 300 inches Magnum and an 06, the diameter of the bullet, okay, the projectile, it is exactly the same between a 300 inches Magnum and the 300 blackout. The casing is a completely different story. I'm talking inner bore diameter. So, I have a micrometer here in my hand. And between a micrometer and my hand, I do have an actual reloading bullet, copper wash, for a 380. It's a 100 grain copper wash. Okay. But it is exactly the same, this 100 grain copper wash, the diameter, as the 9mm. So, how do we do it? Well, guess what? If you worked in a machine shop, this is the way you open and close your micrometer. Now, this particular micrometer is, guess what? It is in inches. What's the difference between an inch and the millimeter? Very simple. 1 inch is actually broken up to 1,000 unit. 1 inch, 1,000 unit. The millimeter is broken up into tenths and hundredths. That's the difference. Don't mix the two. It is not the same. So when you're talking, and this is the way you measure it. If you worked in a machine shop, this is exactly the way you measure it. Okay? Because it has a touch to it. And because it's touch, I just removed it. You can read it from here. Most of you will have to learn to use the micrometer. But if you don't have the brain to use the micrometer, you can actually use even a caliper digital. Thank God for digital calipers. Oops, looks like I am low on battery. All right, so it doesn't work because it has the battery. It doesn't work, the battery. All right. Oh, wait a minute. It does work. Oh, okay. It just came on. So, this is a vernier caliper. It's very simple to use, and this is what we call idiot proof. The reason for that, it gives you the inch and it gives you the millimeter. Well, right now, this is a millimeter because it says so, right up on the top. And if you press the button here, it will give it to you an inch. So, today, let me turn this off. Come on, you can do it. All right, it's off. So, this is an easier to use than a caliper, but don't forget, a caliper, it is a whole lot more accurate in the form of a micrometer. That's why they call it micrometer, because it is a whole lot more accurate, the micrometer. So what happens? The bore diameter is the big difference. The casing, yes, it is a whole lot different story. But the diameter is exactly the same. It's exactly the same with the 380 and the 9mm, the 22, and this is not exactly, because this is a 55 grain. Fitted in an 06 casing, 30 caliber. Now, with that, thank you very much for listening, and have yourself a wonderful day.